We have one additional bill if we have time to get to it, and we'll see how that strikes out. It's 4:45. I think we can get this done by 5:30 and probably faster, depending on how many questions and how much stuff we have to do. But I'm not going to rush things. If we have questions, we will answer them. We will address them. Let's start off with House Bill 89. Alistair, after everybody's commentary, do you want to tell what amendments we have to that bill? What things is one of the easier ones, I think, in terms of our changes. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to find the mute button at this late hour in the day.
It moves around after 4 o'clock, I've heard.
Yes, exactly. Go a little bit blind. So this bill, as it came in, created ongoing stabilization grants and expansion grants for childcare programs. The amendment that we discussed and that is proposed before you guys today is striking that and just doing a stabilization program in the next fiscal year. We list out the things that the State Department of Education in awarding grants should consider, which is largely taken from our discussion on Monday. If you look on the last page of the reprint for
they have been mailed to you if you want to track along, or you can just listen. It's up to you. Sorry, Alistair.
Oh no, thank you very much. On the last page of the reprint, you'll see that the codified language has been struck, and instead we have some uncodified language. The plan now is for MSDE to administer these grants as stabilization grants in fiscal year 2023 to help with the financial hardships or burden on operations that the COVID-19 pandemic has put on childcare providers. And then there's a list of things that, in order of priority, MSDE should give preference to when making awards of grants. And those things are the providers have demonstrated financial hardship, 2, that providers have not received a stabilization grant in prior application cycles.
Let me stop you for a second there. That doesn't mean they can't. It just means that they would be higher priority if they hadn't received one. That's a response to Delegate Boatler's concern, but at the same time, they still could receive one. It just means that people who hadn't received one would be our second most prioritized group. Sorry, please continue.
No problem. Number 3, that they are participants in the Child Care Scholarship Program. Number 4, that they are in areas designated by the State Department of Education as lacking child care slots. So that's kind of addressing the idea of a child care desert. Number 5, that they are providers that serve primarily low-income populations in high areas of poverty. Number 6, that they serve children with special needs. And number 7, that they serve children under the age of 2. And so $50 million is awarded for those people, which is in accordance with the governor's budget for this year. And MSD will administer those grants if this bill passes immediately upon the start of fiscal year 2023.
Anybody have any questions? Oh, sorry, Alistair, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was going to say, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Actually, I asked you and then I started talking, so go ahead.
I reached out to an advocate from the family child care world as a result of Delegate Wilkins's concerns. And I heard back that, in fact, these things would flow to that population a lot and that they would be very helpple for what it's worth.
Also, you checked, and applications information are often multilingual, right? We don't have to put it in the bill because that's already a practice.
That's correct. That's the State Department of Education standard procedure in awarding these kinds of grants.
Does anybody have any questions on these amendments? We did them pretty well on Monday, so now they've taken shape. I'm willing to entertain either commentary, or if we have a motion on the amendments, I'd be happy to take that too.
Move favorable on the amendments.
Second.
Okay, I have been moved and properly seconded. All in favor of the amendments as read, raise your hand, please. Easy, so I can just see them all go up. Great. And now on the bill as we have amended it, is there any commentary or is there a motion?
Motion to move the bill.
Thank you. Okay, we had favorable motion and a second. All in favor of moving House Bill 89 as amended by this subcommittee, raise your hand, please. Good work, you guys. Nicely done. Okay, next bill we're going to go to is one that's similar. We're going to go to House Bill 993. This is another bill which has a pot of gold for the early childhood people in a different way entirely. This is the one that provides the revolving loan system where there's, let's get the numbers right, 15 million this year, 10 million next year, and 5 million the following year. Since it revolves, that money should come back. The question that Delegate Griffith had, he sent me an answer to it, and we appreciate it. Department of Commerce has a rather extensive system and rather thorough system when they have loans out. That's why we thought Department of Commerce might be better than MSDE on this. They're experienced with tracking down groups, or really they talked about how they help them to pay if they're having difficulties. It was not really like they were going to go break their fingers or anything like that. So I thank Delegate Griffith for doing that and coming up with that information for us. Alistair, you want to just go over what that was just informational. Maybe you can just tell what the amendments were in order so I don't miss anything.
Yes, absolutely. So you're spot on. There's not much change from what we discussed on Monday. As we discussed then, rather than MSDE administering this fund, Department of Commerce, who's better set up to administer the fund, is given that authority. So that's at the bottom of page 2 of the reprint. Additionally, in response to that information shared by Delegate Griffith, on page 3, you'll see that if the Department of Commerce does not grant a hardship exemption, they will apply their normal policies in assisting borrowers who are past due for these child care providers who borrow under this fund. And then
the bill already has provision for them to apply for a waiver if they're having difficulty, just as informational. Go ahead.
That's right. And then on page 4, you'll see that rather than just saying that anyone at the list of priorities is eligible, we ranked the priorities. So similar to House Bill 89, which we just discussed, the ranking is first to rural communities, underserved communities, or areas designated as lacking childcare slots. And that's
that's a whole group of 3 right there, right?
Right. So all those 3 are equally.
That's like number 1, right?
And I should add, you have to participate in the Child Care Scholarship Program to be eligible for this.
So there was some discussion of Excels, but as Clinton McSherry informed us and several other people knew, if you participate in that program, you are in the Excels program at least. Go on. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you very much. Number 2, the child care providers, those that serve primarily low-income populations or are in areas of high poverty. Number 3, those that serve children with special needs. And number 4, those that serve children under the age of 2. So very similar to the other grant cycle. The other stuff was more taken into account the specific needs of people who've already gotten stabilization grants and specifically related to COVID-19, whereas this is going to be ongoing money going forward. So those sorts of things are not necessary.
I don't think we said it again, but just to remind, these are for capital improvements or capital acquisitions or building, that kind of thing. All right. Any questions on the amendments? Yes, Delegate Asante.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question about the preference towards rural communities. Are we using the state definition for rural?
It's a hard word.
That is
Anybody
a hard
watch
word.
30 Rock and wants to say rural juror for me?
That too. Because in particularly, I'm concerned about Harford County because by the definition that I'm aware of, we are still a rural county, but sometimes we fall off the table for that. So I want to ensure that Harford County is part of that definition as a rural county.
So under the bill, it is not defined right now. So it's up to MSDE and MDH in administering these revolving loans to decide who counts as a rural county. If you would like, we could further specify it. But under the bill, it would be up to those 2 departments.
Let's put a pin in that. Maybe we'll do something with that.
Yeah,
in a second.
I don't want to hold up the bill, but I think there's
we have the amendment in our hand here. We can either strike that or ask for just trust Alistair to put in a definition of them and we can check with them. Let's hold on that for a second.
It's just important because we are defined in Harford County. We are legally defined that way, but it seems like when it comes up to interpretation, we seem to fall off the table quite a few times. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come back to that in a second. Let's see what Delegate Wilkins has got.
Thank you, Delegate Lasanti, for raising that, because I also have questions about the rural county aspect. Alistair, could you just repeat how the preference for rural counties would apply? Make sure I have that.
Yeah, so it would be in the determination of the Department of Commerce working with the State Department of Education to determine which area, it's rural communities rather than counties, but which communities are rural, which are underserved, and which have fewer childcare slots than others.
So it's important to note in the structure of the bill that number one actually has three things that are of equal consideration. Rural is one of them. Doesn't have to, they don't all, and it's not and, it's or. So it could be any one of those three. Rural, underserved, what was the third one? Alistair, I lost it.
Those that lack sufficient childcare slots.
Right, okay, there you go. Delegate Wilkins, is that good, or do you want to follow up?
I am just playing it out in my, I know we're all
Okay.
hearing these amendments, so I'm playing it out in my
Yeah,
head.
let's
a bit. And I'm just thinking that non-rural areas have a very high cost in terms of administering childcare and, you know, trying to improve your business and things like that. I'm just wondering if rural should be a consideration or not. I don't want to hold us up. It's processing what that means.
There was some question about it. So we can either talk about defining it better or defining it tighter, which might be good or bad. We can also talk about striking it if we want to, if we don't feel like it should be there. Let's Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to continue this conversation, also representing a very rural area of Hartford County. Delegate Wilkins, I think the good thing about this is where we're lower cost, but we also have less need generally. So I think the suburban counties would definitely still get a larger piece of the pie here. We just want to make sure we're included, that's all.
All right. So are we at equilibrium on this, or does someone want to make a suggestion here? We can entertain a suggestion to, fix our amendments. There are amendments, and we can, Alistair will have no trouble adjusting them if this subcommittee wants to do that, or we can leave it as is and tighten it up a little bit on the definition so that it would include. Anybody have, this is not a motion, but more of a suggestion of what we do here, and then we can make an emotion if we want to. Okay, it sounds like we're going to sit tight with this and hope for the best. Do you have more amendments to read, Alistair? To finish reading
That's it for House Bill 993.
Okay, so yeah, Delegate Lasanti.
Sorry, I was looking at rural Maryland's map.
I appreciate
Just-
the work. I really
Thank you.
do.
I was just looking at the map real quick. I was trying to pull it up. I mean, if it's going to be in there, I'd like it to be defined as we defined the rural counties, so there is no ambiguity as to what we're talking about.
Alistair, do you know,
It's an either or. So I mean,
does a definition exist somewhere? Is that right? Do we feel like there is a definition out there somewhere in statute or that has been used?
There are definitely some definitions. I'm not sure if they vary depending on the statute that's being used, but I can look into them.
And Delegate Wilkins, do you want to move it down the list a little bit? That's another possibility here, that we leave it in and we define it nicely, but we don't put it in the top tier of things that we look at here. You're up. Oh, you're not muted, but I can't hear you.
Oh,
There you go.
I would prefer that.
Okay. So how about if we do both things? How about if we define it clearly so that a county like Hartford County gets included, but we move it off that top three list and drop it to number 2 behind the two that are in number 1. Make a new number 2. How would that be? All right, I'm going to suggest that we take the amendment and we do that to it, that we take the rural out of the 3 that are the top 3 together and make it a top 2 together and bump rural down to number 2. I don't know that it'll make that much of a difference, but it will be a consideration. So it's sort of a motion.
What would it, could you?
Yeah, read it again then, Alistair, in that case.
Yes, so then the preference for loans under this program would be child care providers located in underserved communities or areas designated by the department as lacking childcare slots. as
Which
number
might
one.
also be rural communities, interestingly.
That's
yeah.
true. Both
that-
those things could potentially be rural communities.
Yeah.
And then number 2 would be rural communities. Number 3 would be childcare providers that serve primarily low income populations in areas of high poverty, then serve children with special needs. And then number 5 would be children who are under the age of 2.
Gotcha. That's fine.
How's that sound?
I'll work with that.
All right. Make a motion, somebody. With that said, and Alistair having that, we'll take that as a motion for the entire amendment with it written out. Mike, you still have your hand up. Am I ignoring you?
I was just going to agree with that fact that we do have underserved communities in
Right.
our county, and that kind of checks multiple boxes. So I'm fine with that.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion on the amendment?
Make a motion to accept the amendment as read.
Got a
I think it's
second?
fair. I think it's fair to everybody.
Good. Got a second?
Second.
Somebody just nod your head. Good. Okay, I have it. It's moved and seconded on the amendments. All in favor of the amendments? Give me a quick hand up in the air, please. Wait, there we go. And on the bill as amended, any other discussion or a motion?
Move the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Branch. I knew
Second.
I waited for you for a reason. Do I have a second? Thank you. I have a second. All in favor of us forwarding the bill as amended, favorable, raise your hands, please. Thank you all very much. Okay, next one's going to be another one that has some money in it, but this one's money for people and businesses that are hiring. Okay, this is 1100 is the next one, right? Okay, so 1100. We do have some amendments. We missed the bill drafter missed a piece of the intent of the bill, and Alistair will explain that. Most everything else is about the same drafting.
Sorry.
I would have to say it was the person who called for the draft, wouldn't you? I don't think draft.
Yeah, I'm going to blame the co-sponsor, Delegate Solomon, here.
There we go. There we go. All right. So real quickly, this is the one that provides $1,000 bonuses to people who are currently working and working 20 hours a week, or people who are credentialed and also working 30 hours a week at this point, or getting ready. I guess they're currently working. Then it provided also originally $500 for folks who had just come on board and committed to working and committed to pursuing certification. And that you might wonder, well, if they commit and they don't, they still have the money, right? Well, what it turned out is that the intent was they would get another $500 when they followed through by getting credentialed, not just working 6 months, but by getting credentialed. So they would actually end up with $1,000 bonus. They would have to make sure they got the credentialing done. And then $500, and they had also worked 30 hours a week, 20 hours a week. And then $500 to businesses that hire new people, but we also insisted that they be working 30 hours a week, that they'd be well over part-time. If they were going to receive a bonus for hiring them, we wanted them to hire people that could actually give them a fair amount of service. Now, Alistair, have I missed any details there?
Nope, you got everything.
Okay, so we had to amend a couple of things. The end of the bill requires to amend because it didn't say for the businesses. The third one said it was for people again. We couldn't figure out how those people were. We went back to the sponsors and said, what did you mean here? And then they also clarified with us that they wanted the $500 bonus to build to a $1,000 bonus. All right. And as far as because I see I have my watchdog here today, as far as the fiscal note, that didn't make a significant difference. Is that right, Alistair?
No, it should be the same. It changes a little bit that under the old potential interpretation, the $500, there would not be the second bonus once you reach credentials. So you could have double the people who are hired, but you're now focusing on the population. Those people will all get it for the first 500, but the other 500 will be saved for if they actually reach the credentials and remain working in these childcare providers.
Anybody have any commentary on the amendments? Yes, Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Alistair. I have been reading over these, and I'm still having trouble understanding some of what the intent of the bill, particularly when you put the businesses in as well. So we are saying that somebody comes in, and this has to be a new hire. They cannot have been certified before or worked anywhere else, correct? Because that's important. So we're not playing revolving chairs. That new hire comes in and says, I will work for 6 months, goes ahead and gets the $500. They don't have to give it back if they leave next week, right?
I know it'd be hard to extract it from them.
Yeah. And then after the 6 months, then they get the other portion of $500.
Well, not just
So
6
what
months,
did you just, okay, and then you just said something, certification, right?
right?
once
Yeah,
they're
we call them credentialed, but yeah.
Credentially. So you just said something that I didn't understand about that system though, about how the business end was going to work. Do you mind just repeating that? I'm not trying to be oppositional. I really
No.
don't understand.
Let me try first, Alistair. If I missed a detail, go ahead.
Yeah.
When one of these childcares hires a new person into their business, they will be given $500. There's a thought that the process of advertising and processing them and everything is expensive for them. Maybe not $500 worth, but it will incent them to work hard to find people. And they can, of course, tell them, hey, if you come work here, we'll not only pay you what we pay you, we're going to offer you a bonus as well. So I believe it was sort of to help the businesses have something to keep them afloat also, like we're doing with everything else, but also to help defray some of the costs of hiring and doing the work of human resources and things like that. Does that answer? How'd I do, Alistair?
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right.
I think it answered the question. I still have
Try
some
it
concerns.
again if you didn't think you got it. Try it again.
I'm trying. I think I still have some concerns about giving money up front to people when they hire on, rather than at the end of that 6 month period, whether they have fulfilled their legal obligations for certification or not. And also, it almost seems like a double payment for the business is getting the money, but they need the workers. So that incentive to me, you would think would almost be enough. Like we're giving you extra money to pay for your workers. I don't know. Fiscally, I'm just not sure it sounds great to me. I'm not going to stand in the way of it, but if there were some way to put some safeguards in that, it might be more comfortable for me.
If you take a second while we answer some other questions and see if you have a concrete suggestion, maybe we'll take it up. Okay. Mike, Delegate Griffith.
I'm sorry, Mike's fine.
No, it's really not appropriate.
It's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are a lot of businesses in a lot of industries right now in this exact same boat, all looking for help. Are we doing this for restaurants or retail or any other of the hundreds of industries who are in this exact same shape? I mean, I run a title company and I could really use some help to help me find some folks because we're desperate for employees right now. I mean, and especially, we have a package of 6 bills here, right, to help these childcare providers, and I support 5 of them. I just feel this is a slippery slope because if we're singling out pay bonuses for one industry, and that now we're in the business of picking winners and losers when regards to restaurants I don't want to repeat myself, but lots of industries are desperate in the same situation. And I'm not sure it's necessarily fair for us to do this for one industry and not all the industries that are in desperate shape with businesses closed everywhere and hours limited and so on and so forth, all the stuff that we all know is self-evident right now. So I'm deeply concerned about that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, noted. Delegate Wilkins.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. This wasn't what my comment was going to be about, but I certainly understand where the good delegate that just spoke is coming from. I also think that during the course of the pandemic, I saw a lot of different programs for restaurants that were local and state efforts. Also for traditional businesses and others, didn't provide much support to this industry. And as we are rebuilding, if our childcare access isn't strong, our folks can't go back to work and we can't continue to rebuild our economy. So I think that that's a case for why we really do need this entire package. But the actual comment is actual question.
That wasn't a comment. I'm just checking. Okay.
That was the comment. Now the question.
Yeah, no. Okay,
Actually,
go
I have
ahead.
a question. I support this bill and think that it's much needed. But I have a question for Quentin McSherry, if he is able to answer it. After reviewing the bill, it seems a bit that this bill maybe is focused in on childcare businesses that maybe already employ staff and already, might have these certified folks on hand. I wanted to get your sense, because you work with this community so much, on if and how this bill would apply to the family childcare providers.
Thanks for the question, Delegate Wilkins. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll try to
Yes,
answer.
thank you for asking, but yes, thank you.
Delegate Wilkins, so to the extent that family childcare providers are credentialed, they would be, under the bill as I read it, eligible for the retention bonuses. I will certainly defer to your learned counsel on the fine points of that, but I'm pretty confident that's the case. For childcare, I mean, clearly family childcare providers are not typically bringing on new hires, but if they are what are called large family childcare homes, they may in fact bring on a new hire to help expand their capacity from 8 kids to 12 kids. So that's another possibility. That's the best I can tell you right now in terms of how this bill would impact family childcare.
And I should note that.
Does that
Oh,
answer your
sorry.
question? Is that a good start to the answer to your question? You're muted.
That is a good start. Just a quick follow-up, Alistair, then if you can just, since the retention piece is the one that might impact the family childcare the most, if you can just give us the overview of how that part would work.
Yes, for sure. So I was about to say, so there's in total 16 million for this program. 10 million is dedicated to the retention part, and that is for people who on June 30th, 2023, or between June 30th, 2023 and June 30th, 2024, earn a childcare credential. And that's under the childcare credentialing program that was codified in the blueprint bill. So that's the bulk of the money. There's $4 million for the new hires, half of which is at the point of hire, at least is currently drafted, and then half upon receipt of that credential. And then there's another $2 million for the businesses to incentivize them to hire themselves.
So the overarching thing, I don't think we mentioned, this is capped. Okay, so I mean, it'll eventually, will run out, and it's only for this year. And so that I think it answers Delegate Griffith's concerns a little bit. Delegate Wilkins, did that help to answer the question or not?
Yes, and if it's appropriate, I'd like to put forward a motion on the amendments.
Okay, Delegate Guyton's got one more thing, and I did task her about 3 minutes ago with coming up with if she wanted to make it, if there was a change she wanted to suggest.
You're muted, Delegate Guyton.
I don't want to slow the bill down. I know it's a priority and it should be. I still, the $2 million to incentivize people to hire someone is uncomfortable for me, because I think everyone is trying to hire people right now. And the incentive for that is you actually get more kids and you get more money from those tuitions. So I don't know that that's an appropriate use of public funds. That's just sort of how I feel about that one. The other question I would have, and I can back off on that issue, I think, is that there doesn't seem to be in this bill that I'm seeing right now any sort of requirements for which child care centers get this. So, I believe in spending public funds for early education, but only if it's high quality early education. Otherwise, it's not worth our effort to do so. So how do we know that these are going to high quality programs? And again, Excels is like one of the only measures of that we have. So is that a requirement in this bill?
So
It's not. And go ahead, Alistair, take it.
I'm sorry. The only requirement that for any of these positions where you're credentialed, if you're hired, or the business itself, they have to participate in the child care scholarship program. So they do have to be in the Excels program. They don't have to have a particular score or anything like that.
Okay, well, that answers the question then to some extent. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to, Delegate Branch, and then Clinton McSherry has a comment, but Delegate, you're the delegate, so you get to go next.
Okay, so just to piggyback off of Delegate Guyton, I just wanted to know, would there be any way to have a person get paid like maybe 6 months after being employed? That's my first thing. And then the second question that I have is there any way for a person to be employed and then possibly quit and then maybe go work for someone else and then still be eligible for the same funding or for the same raise? So is there anything in the bill to stop that from happening as well?
Not as currently written. That could be a change we make. And so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say for the 6 month part, there is the possibility of another $500 if you make it to then and you earn the credential. If not, or the certification. Apologies. If you don't do that, then you will only get the first $500. But perhaps that would be a good suggestion to say, this is a one time for each person.
Or if not one time for each person, then like I said, then at least give them the money at the back end, which is the 6 months rather than at the front end. So that way you're not wasting the money, because you have people who may not even have good work, history, and may want to quit after a month, realizing they don't want to work with children. So I just think that there should be something in place to just make sure that we're giving the money to the people who are serious about the profession and who really want the positions.
Okay, we're going to see if we can iron this out today. We may not be able to, but let's give it a little more time. Marianne, Delegate Lasanti, if you could just wait a second. Clint McSherry had a comment on something somebody else said, and he's often quite a good source of information. So I'm going to put him up now.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Let me be clear. There several philosophical questions have been raised here, which is not in my purview to discuss. I will say that I think the intent of having at least the initial bonus being paid to the new hire is to cover that immediate need. Sure. I think there is also the way the program's designed, an incentive for that employee to stay another 6 months and earn the credential to go on. But I think we're trying to address an immediate need and have childcare providers compete with companies like Amazon that are offering huge bonuses, $1,000 bonuses for hiring. I think that's the intent. Again, whether you all believe that's valid or not is completely up to you. I do respect the comment about a revolving door. You don't want somebody to take a job at one childcare center, quit the next week and take a job at the next center. I think that probably does make some certain sense. And I don't think we anticipated that in the language. Again, just talking about the language, not the philosophy here. One last point, please. The question of the bonuses that go to the hiring agent, that is the childcare program as opposed to the employee. That bonus, if you want to call it a bonus, is actually meant to offset the considerable costs sometimes of onboarding a new employee. I don't know that it's going to go to the employee, but this is anecdotal. So I apologize in advance for it not being hard quantitative data, but I asked several providers that I know who have been trying desperately to hire. It costs them anywhere between $900 and $1,100 to bring a new person on, between the cost of background checks, between the cost of advertising for the position, between the costs, associated other costs, which I'd be happy to outline if you'd like. But the $500 won't even cover that cost of onboarding, and I will stop there.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Lasanti.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the economics here. If I look at $500 for $4 million allocated for a $500 bonus, that's 8,000 employees. Is that right?
I asked this question too. It's a good one. Go ahead and ask it.
Can somebody put into perspective to me what the shortage of jobs are in this arena? That's question number one. And question number two is I want to understand a little bit more about the certification process. How are they certified? Is there a particular path, or is there one path? Is there multiple paths? I don't know much about the certification.
Alistair, do you have stuff on that? I mean, I can try, but I'm not fully drilled down on the certification process. If anybody, go ahead.
Similarly, I don't know in great detail, so it might be a good question for one of the advocates.
And I have an advocate on board who I don't know who she represents. Leslie Fry, can you just unmute yourself and tell us who you are real quick?
Hi, I represent Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I feel like we're a little bit in the weeds on this one. We have a couple of questions, and I don't feel like maybe I'm reading the room wrong, but I feel like we're going to, and let's continue to discuss it. But I think it's very possible that we'll put a pin in this until Monday's meeting to actually move on it. But Delegate Wilkins, I see your hand up.
I think we can probably try to figure this out and get this through with the other bills. Maybe we can share some ideas. It sounds like the contentious point is the starting bonus. I'm just throwing something out there. What if you advertise for the starting bonus, but make it clear that it's received in the anniversary of your third month there or something like that? Like it's not received like on your first day. It's a bonus, but it's received, in the anniversary of your third month or fourth month or whatever. 4 months, probably a long time, but maybe there's a way that we delay the bonus a little bit. It's still a recruitment tool, and you should make it clear that it's not going to be received on the first day, just to, make sure that it's someone that's sort of going to be there.
So let me clarify, because there are two bonuses. So we would do that with both bonuses, the $1,000 bonus for people who are already, they would already be working there ostensibly. You're referring to the one for the 500 plus 500. Is that right then?
I think so. I was trying to address
so
what Delegate Guyton was saying, so maybe it makes sense to her. But I was just trying to address the idea of just the starting bonuses. I think it's the 500 and 500.
Okay. Delegate Guyton? Still muted. There you go.
I think thank you, Delegate Wilkins. I mean, I think that's something that makes a little bit more sense. So you don't have people jumping back and forth, in the way that I could see it happening. So that would be all right with me if we went with her plan there. I think the other piece is we want to put safeguards on the hiring bonus. If we are doing the incentivizing of the $500 per hire, we want to make sure that this doesn't incentivize them to fire and hire and fire and hire, right? So I would say we need to put a cap or a certain number of times that appropriate times that an employer could actually get that money to. I can see that being a problem.
All right, so to recap, it sounds like we're pretty comfortable with people who are already credentialed, who are already working, to give them a $1,000 bonus. But people who are new hires, the original plan was they would get $500 when they came on board, and then if they got credentialed, then they would get another $500. I feel like there's a flavor for, because that's 6 months, right? That was one, Alistair, that was the next. So I've heard suggestions that we're a little concerned about that. So when you hire on, it's like, yeah, you're going to get your bonus, but you got to wait 3 months. It's halfway through. I'm comfortable with putting that in there if the rest of you are. And really, all I need is kind of a general temperature here, because we're going to vote on the whole amendment. I've heard that from 2 people. If anyone really objects to that idea or doesn't think it's a good idea, I would like you to let me know now, and we'll go. But I do see Delegate Asante's hand up, so let's find out.
I'm still back at square one.
Okay.
8,000 employees. That's what we're talking about here.
Yes.
For the 500. I'm looking at the testimony from MSDE, and that's the one thing that seems to be missing is to quantify the amount of vacant positions in this particular industry. I mean, I go back to I think an earlier comment here about there are many industries out there looking for, and it's the whole life cycle of good jobs and pay and balancing family, work obligations and children and all of that too. So I'm trying to understand where we are coming from with what this, how many jobs are really available in this industry.
So the other comment about businesses, and we are the Early Childhood Subcommittee, so we're going to deal with this. If there are other places,
I got you.
We're not going to do that. And I think Delegate Wilkins's comment, which is what I call the workforce behind the workforce, means that this one is important to us in that way. So I'm okay with that. Let's bring on our resident expert again. Mr. McSherry, would you like to tell us about the possibility of hiring on 8,000 people?
Yes, sir. We have looked at the estimates. We would estimate that returning to pre-pandemic staffing levels would require the onboarding of approximately 700 new family child care providers and somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 child care center staff.
So, Alistair, what happens to this money if it doesn't get completely subscribed?
It is held over and can be gotten in subsequent fiscal years.
So the answer would be over a period of time, it would help if it wasn't all used this year, but it could be. because they might need to hire that many more people. That's probably why the 8,000 is the number, because it could actually be that many. But it would hold over, the program would continue then until the money was drained out of it. Is that right? Okay. So the only substantial change I've heard so far is that we should just make new hires wait halfway through the period before they get the first bonus, even though they might need it. As Mr. McSherry says, we're not comfortable with the idea that they could do it. Yeah, Alistair, go ahead.
I think there was also a suggestion that if you can't double dip. If you get the new hire bonus, you can't then quit and go get it again from somewhere else.
And do you think the Department of Commerce could monitor that? I would hope that they could. If it was going to a person for the second time, they would have a record of having done it. So let's put that in there. Okay, let's say this is a one-time bonus for new workers.
And if we could also add for the employers as well, so that they're not recycling their employees in order to get their bonuses. So
yeah, Alistair, do you feel like you can find language that would prevent that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you would have to, maybe they would have to employ them for a certain period of time, or not. I'm not totally sure. Fire for cause after a certain time might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, okay, let's hold on that. Doug Asante, either you left your hand up or you're talking again.
No.
I think I saw it go down and come back up.
I'm going down a path.
Good. We're looking for you.
So, this makes me feel a little bit better that the money rolls over, so it's not all immediate. It has to be done within a shorter period of time, because then if we add if the credentialing piece remains in the bill, then you're starting to create a career path for folks, which I really like. So my question is the certification, is it done by, who does that? Is it
MSDE certifies.
MSDE, but do they do it?
You can weigh in on that a little bit.
Do they do it themselves or with like the community college or
right? People take community college classes, and they just like a teacher certifies. You take classes and you submit them, and then they send you they credential you as a child care provider or child care worker. We went through a bill a couple of years ago.
I think that's my connection that at least that would make me feel comfortable with the whole thing, is that we are creating this career path at, whether it's the community college or whatever, to recruit people into the industry that are going to be, that are going to work there for a period of time. So I'm not sure that MSDE is the right person to be doing that recruitment. I think the community colleges that provide that might be. So if there's some way that we could connect those, I think that.
Sorry, Delegate, I didn't mean to step on you.
Please.
There's currently a child care credentialing program that MSDE has, and that they've adopted regulations for, that is fairly extensive. So it's feeding people into that particular program, which includes some training, which can be done, I think, at community colleges or in other ways. But it's reasonably detailed, and I think has been fairly successful in the past.
Okay. All right. That makes me feel a little better. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just review what we kind of said, make sure everybody is kind of there. Somebody who's already credentialed and working, we'll just get hey, it's great that you've been working here and you're credentialed. Here's your $1,000 bonus. Somebody who is coming on board and is either working on getting credentialed, or I guess if they're credentialed, even then we're gonna make them wait. If they come on board and they're credentialed, do they fit in the first category, Alistair? If they're just being hired and they're credentialed, do they get a $1,000 bonus right then and there?
As currently written, no, but we can amend that so that they would.
So that they would get it. So somebody who begins working and is suddenly credentialed when they come on board, they would be in the first category then. Okay. Then we have somebody who is working but is not credentialed. We want them to commit to work, but we really can't hold them to that. So we're going to delay the first half of that bonus for 3 months, and if they work at the same place for 3 months, and then when they become credentialed, they get the second part of that bonus, right? Okay. And then for the businesses, we're going to let them collect the money that Clinton McSherry says they so badly need to hire people, but we're going to charge Department of Commerce with making sure that they are not, this is a hard one, isn't it? that they are not hire. Yeah, I don't know how to do it exactly. Alistair, do you have any idea how we say that? That they're not just hiring and firing people.
I mean, I think we could potentially limit it to, that you have to hire someone and they have to remain working there. The problem with that is, if the business has reason to fire them, that's unrelated to trying to churn out multiple grants and based
Right.
on.
But I don't think I'm not against the idea of making the business wait either. I mean, we've got our stabilization stuff, and if they really are in that bad of shape, they can go for that as well. But if they're looking for this, I think, is anybody want to suggest a period of time that the person they hire stays for 6 months or 3 months or 4 months? I don't know. It's just when we pick numbers out of the air, but make sure that they are keeping the person on for a reasonable period of time.
If you wanted to mirror
Santi says 6. Just got 6.
I was going to say, if you wanted to mirror the other part, it could be
Right.
3 months, and then they could at the same time.
Anybody want to weigh in on that, on choosing? I feel like that's what we want to do a little bit here. Does anybody want to help us choose a number? All right. So I don't know what to do. I'm going to say 3. Okay. Delegate Wilkins, thank you for, oh shoot. I thought you had your hand up. I always have something smart to say.
I was going to say 3 as well, just to keep the
Okay.
numbers in the bill consistent.
So let's go with 3 for now on that, if it's okay.
And to
with
keep it where I can count. So that's good.
Okay, so you don't have to use 2 hands when you hold it up in the air. All right, so that, I think I recapped it pretty well there. We want to safeguard that they keep the person on for 3 months. We want to safeguard that the person who just got hired is promised their bonus if they stay there for 3 months, and then they get the second part of the bonus when they get credentialed. Not if they just stay for 6 months, but if they get credentialed, okay? And then, okay, I think we got it. Anybody have any comment? All right, wow, that was fun. You guys, this is one great committee, I gotta tell you. All right, does anybody want to, in spirit, and he'll have it right, does anybody want to make a motion on that amendment?
Move the amendment.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hands, please. And I don't see Boatler's hand up. But I do see Griffiths. Maybe Boatler's trying to, there we go, thanks. All right, so that's unanimous on the bill as amended.
Move the bill.
Thank you, Delegate Branch. Thank you, Delegate Guyton, for the second. All in favor of the bill as amended. All right, there we go. Okay, we're halfway there. We may push one off the edge here. We'll see. All right, so the next one I would like to take up is House Bill 995, which begins now we go into the area of giving people money that needed to attend. 995 is complicated, but I think it's a good bill. The federal system will actually pay subsidies for families that are in financial need and qualify in several other ways, but the process takes time for them to fill out, and the process takes time for MSDE to be sure that they qualify. This simply says that we will have them fill out a form, and we have to amend it a little bit. Originally, it was just that they state that they qualify. We're going to amend it to say they also have to state what their annual income is, because that will be a basis for what level of subsidy they get. And we will begin giving them that subsidy out of the pass-through money that we get from the federals. And there's no penalty for us doing that. And once they qualify, then they'll just continue to get it. There's a period, we have a period of time when they have to do it by. We'll pay it for so long. I'll let Alistair tell you what that time period is. The general feeling is that this almost always works out, but we'll talk about what happens in the instance where someone makes a claim, probably by mistake. We're not going to blame them, but it works out that they don't qualify as they said they did. But Alistair, we'll get to you. Mike, God, I gotta stop doing that. Delegate Griffith, what's your question?
I feel great. You feel that comfortable with me.
I do. Look at me just leaning back here. Okay.
Just on the previous bill, I wanted to just make sure you had me as a no on the previous bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. Thank you. Delegate Boatler, sometimes you also join with Delegate Griffith. So did you want to vote no on that bill also? He's not hearing me. All right. Well, I got one no. All right. So now back to where we are. Alistair, you want to talk about just the bill, but I think I don't know if we have amendments on this one or not. Do we have some? Okay.
Yes, they're fairly minimal. So yes, as you said, this is about participation in the child care scholarship program and allowing people to join the program initially and then go through the application process. So you're eligible for 15 days to begin childcare through the program. The amendment is, as Delegate Eversole stated, an individuals previously just had to aver that they were eligible for the program. Now they have to provide their estimated annual household income, which is used to calculate what their payments under the program should be, and that they meet the other qualifications for the program. And then
they have 15 more days after they apply to wait for MSDE to render a decision, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So we'd be paying for about a month with some risk, but very little.
And then, as you guys may recall, that there's another part of this particular bill that if someone is receiving certain support, that they do not have to make a copayment. So there's an amendment there. So that's subsection D.
So let's clarify. This is the complete. I forgot to mention this, and it's a completely separate part of the bill, which seeks to have people that might get a partial subsidy actually get a complete subsidy. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. So this is, if you have the reprint before you, it straddles pages 2 and 3. And so if you render proof that you participate in the federal SNAP program, the federal WIC program, federal housing choice or housing voucher program, supplemental security income benefits, or temporary cash assistance, you will not have to have a copay. We removed one of the things that was previously there, which was the Guaranteed Access Grant, which is a grant for higher education. Additionally, there is just a clarifying paragraph here that says that if under federal law, the individual does not qualify for full subsidy, the child care provider does not have to pay the difference in cost. And otherwise, there are no other changes. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one more change, which is that at the bottom of page 3 of this reprint, previously the bill said that MSDE was required to pay child care providers. They're actually not the ones who do it under the child care subsidy program. It's the Department of Commerce, again, our nefarious
Our new friend.
So what happens is they're notified by the child care provider that there's a payment due. So now within 5 days of notice of that payment, MSDE has to notify the Department of Commerce, and then within 5 days of that notification, the Department of Commerce has to.
It's essentially that the child care provider has to be paid with some alacrity, right? With some speed. Okay. Delegate Guyton.
Hi. Just a clarifying question. One piece of this stuck out to me, and I'm not sure exactly how you interpret it, Alistair. So if the family is not fully subsidized, and the child care provider doesn't have to pay the difference, but who pays the child care provider? I guess I'm missing a piece.
It will be the state, because the state is under federal law, the State Department of Education is the group that has written the plan and been granted the authority to run this program. So they're on the hook for the payments for the program.
Okay. And that would only be for that small period of time when we're not sure if they were going to be.
No, this would be for this would be for someone who is qualifies for this kind of support if they're in the federal SNAP program, on temporary cash assistance and so forth. I think that to a large degree, those people are probably already not having to have copays, because the income thresholds are probably for those programs are probably such that they qualify for full payment or close to a full payment. But there may be some cases in which there's an additional cost there that in the
This is just in case somebody who's in one of these programs didn't quite qualify. We think they probably should have.
All right. So basically we're waiving the copay for anyone in these programs. And if they should have a copay, this MSDE picks it up. Is that an accurate? And do we have funding for MSDE to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no, additional revenue raised or anything in this bill, but yes, MSDE will be on the hook for that, and it'll be part of their budget.
Probably be a budget item for us then, right? Exactly. Delegate Guyton, does that answer your question?
I believe it does. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to comment on these amendments? They're pretty good, I think, and I'd be either willing to take comment or motion on them. Come on, Delegate Branch, come through for me.
Move the amendment.
Second.
Thank you, Delegate. Okay, I have it's properly moved and seconded. All in favor of the amendments as described, please raise your hands. Thank you. And on the bill as amended.
Move favorable as amended.
Thank you. And I have a second.
Second.
I saw a hand go up. That's enough for me. On the bill as amended, all in favor, raise your hands, please. And again, that one goes unanimously. The other one did not. Let's make a note of that. All right. I want to tell you that we have an expert here. If you have questions, Andrew Nicholas has been waiting on board here. We're coming up to House Bill 725, which with some research and things that I wasn't sure of before, I've discovered this is a very specific program in the state. I see Delegate Guyton nodding her head because she probably knows all about it. And she'll be an expert too then, Andrew. That there are currently 5 facilities or 5 institutions that serve students that come under this category. And so we are eager. This bill was put in by by Delegate Ludke, eager to find ways to provide these institutions with a reliable and perhaps a larger source of funding for what they do. We have worked on it. One of the problems we have is that it's set a per student amount, which was difficult for us to control in terms of the amount of money, depending on how many students qualify. We're going to add some language in that has been suggested by the Developmental Disabilities Council and also taken from some COMAR to make sure everybody understands who these students are. We're not going to name the particular institutions because as there are only 5, if this works out, that there can be some more across the state. We certainly would like them to be because there's accessibility can be a problem for some folks. So the original fiscal note writer estimated the annual cost of this to be somewhere in the $3.6, $3.7, $3.8 million range per year. And so our question was, well, do we just divide that by the number of students and get it per amount, but that changes. So instead we said what we would do is we would take this amount that we're comfortable with in the budget and we would distribute it to the existing institutions, in this case, the 5 of them, based strictly on the proportion of students that they have out of the number of eligible students in the state. They would be on that grant. We are going to make this grant be mandatory. In other words, MSD will have to distribute all of the funds under that proportionality requirement. And so this will help these institutions. If you want to know more about them, ask, and we'll get Andrew. If you're comfortable, we can go from there. Delegate Guyton, you have either a question or some kind of important information.
Thank you. It's going to be a wonderful comment that you've been waiting for, because I know we spoke earlier this week about questions I had about this bill. I contacted all of my folks. I read it over. I think it's great. Just wanted to say all of my questions have been answered.
High five. Nice. There we go. All right. So that we have the total costs and we know what we're doing here. These are for incredibly disadvantaged young people. I think, Andrew, I'll let you answer questions. You've waited so long. What age students does this apply to?
This is under 6.
Okay.
Under 6 can be babies up to 5.
Thank you. Okay, there you go. You came for a reason.
Right. Put a tie on and everything.
Yeah, man. Sorry about that. We all.
That's all right.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions about the amendment? All right, then. I'll take a motion on it if we want one. Thank you, Delegate Guyton. Can I get a second somewhere in the room? I think is Delegate Griffith still awake there? It's like he's nodding off a little bit. All right. All in favor of the amendment as described, please raise your hands. There we go. And on the bill as amended.
Move favorable as amended.
Thank you. Okay. And all in favor is moved and seconded. All in favor of the bill as amended, please. Okay, that's great work. We powered through 5. Now, point of personal privilege. There's one more bill that your chair put in that did not make it as part of the speaker's package, but relates to early childhood. And I got permission to bring this bill today. This bill is on something that is a little lower level than the program we just had defined to us. This is called the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultant Group, which exists now and is currently funded by MSDE, but through no guarantee at $2 million a year. This gets a group of people who are well-trained. If a child care or pre-K is having difficulty dealing with a student because of usually their emotional distress, but it could also be physical, that what they can do, obviously, since they are LLCs or they are often nonprofits, they can just go to the parents and say, we can't handle them, you got to take them, sorry. And so essentially they get expelled from the school, not through malice, but it happens. This group will come to that school and either deal with that student for them for a while as a demonstration, or they will also train the staff on how to manage that. It's good for the business because they keep a customer, and it's good for the student because we know that if you lose a lot of potential if these kids go. We had a study produced. MSDE went big and said, this needs to be, it's way oversubscribed. We need a lot more. Where money's a little tight. So what this bill would do is it would codify the original 2 million plus 1 million more to help this program to begin to expand. You can count on it that I'll be back next year. But I don't know that we have any amendments to it other than the amount of money. Is that right, Alistair?
We have another amendment to clarify some language that the bill came in with. Additionally, I neglected to do this in my initial round of amendments, but this program's name has been changed to, rather than the consultation project, it's early childhood and infant and early childhood mental health support services. So that is also an amendment.
Services. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the program or about the bill? We will move the amendments. Yeah, Delegate Wilkins.
Just a quick question. Does it require the providers, or are the providers required to work and retain that child?
Clinton, Delegate, Mr. McSherry, he's the one who is one of the main advocates for this group. So maybe you'd like to answer Delegate Wilkins' question for me. Oh God, I hope he's there. Yes, he is.
I am here. Thank you, sir. And thanks for the question, Delegate Wilkins. No, the providers are not required under this to do anything, frankly. And in fact, it's often the providers who make the initial call for service. So that's the easiest way I can answer it. I will say, as you've heard in the hearing, what we've learned over the years is that this program is highly successful in preventing expulsions and suspensions for kids who are deemed at imminent risk of that kind of thing. So
satisfactory, Delegate Wilkins. It's been a long meeting. Delegate Wilkins, did you get the answer to your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Mr. McSherry.
Okay, so the amendment is to change the amount and to change the name. The amount of money is something that the Speaker's office is comfortable with us putting into this bill. I'll take a motion on the amendment.
Move favorable.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Anybody just nod your head, tilt it off to the side a little bit. That'll do. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. Okay, and Delegate, I didn't see it. Okay, I just want to be sure because I'm making assumptions there. Okay, and so on the bill as amended.
Move favorable.
Thank you, Delegate. And I see the other yellow jacketed member of our group waving over there. I didn't get the memo. Did any of you that was yellow jacket day? I missed that entirely. Okay, all in favor of the favorable on the bill as amended, please raise your hands. All right, we got unanimous there too. Wow, 6 bills, 6 really hard bills. We will probably meet again Monday. We have a couple of important bills to take up, not the least of which is Delegate Wilkins' bill that she read to us about non-discrimination. This is a bill that will require some discussion, but we will take it up with vigor. Other than that, I have nothing else for you guys. I can't say enough. Thank you. I said 5:30. We're 15 minutes after that, but we got a lot of good work done. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.